Is Thursday at 4 p.m., the time we come together to remember we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. It's where I give an update on some of the good things that are happening here in Kentucky and also where we are on facing our major challenge in COVID-19 and other challenges that we face. Today, a couple different schools. First, Team Fairview. I want to thank them for actually a great mask, making sure that they have what they need for their students as they return to school. Also, the Saffel Street Stars in Anderson County. Have somebody that worked with me in the AG's office. I believe her daughter is a teacher there. Appreciate all that you all are doing. Today, we're going to talk through our Fast 4 at 4. We're going to give a quick update on our program to help people with rent, try to ensure that no one is evicted during this difficult time, give our update on COVID, and then Dr. Stack is going to go back through the dashboards for public schools and then talk to us about a safe Halloween and how we do it. So let's start with our Fast 4 at 4. Number one is a pretty special grant that we've received to prevent human trafficking. Human trafficking is modern slavery. It is where people have almost their very soul taken from them through either sex or labor trafficking, where they, through some form of force or coercion, are almost turned into property when they are incredible people. It's one of the fastest growing criminal enterprises in the world, and when I was Attorney General, one of our major missions was to crack down and ultimately end human trafficking. It's something that I'm still committed to. I remember in the AG's office we secured the single longest sentence of a human trafficker under state law. That was a former district judge in northern Kentucky, as well as created a task force that in some measure still continues today. Also started the Survivors Council. I got to speak to one of those members again just the other day. They do incredible work lifting up our survivors. So this is a $1 million grant awarded to prevent child trafficking. It was awarded to DCBS to stop child trafficking and provide support to survivors. The grant is titled Improving Outcomes for Child and Youth Victims of Human Trafficking Award. It's funded from the Federal Department of Justice to combat and research human trafficking through specific programming to enhance local and state services. This is a 3-year grant, and it's going to help the Department for Community-Based Services with its social services and law enforcement partners to provide critical resources. It's going to work closely with Catholic Charities, and Kentucky is one of only 4 states to receive this award. It's really important because you really need specialized training to talk to an individual that may not even think in some instances that they are a victim, and understanding that so many children are trafficked by their own family members, sometimes even parents, and that requires someone with the training to make sure that we can step in and help that child. Remember, this is happening in every community across Kentucky. It's our job as responsible adults to stop it, and we should. This is going to be a big help in helping to make that happen. Second piece of good news is the Governor's Safety and Health Awards. Every Kentuckian should be safe in their place of employment. This is a priority for me and for this administration. Early in my term, I restored the Occupational Safety and Health Standards Board to strengthen workplace and worker safety. And our labor cabinet is now once again an active labor cabinet that investigates the worst of the worst workplace injuries and deaths and ensures that our employers are providing that safe environment. Here in Kentucky, we not only want to make sure we're doing that on the enforcement end, but we want to recognize the companies, the employers that go the extra mile to ensure the safety of their employees. So just today, the Labor Cabinet announced 37 companies from across the Commonwealth who have received the Governor's Safety and Health Award. The award is presented annually to those companies who demonstrate outstanding safety and health performance in the workplace and foster programs designed to reduce or eliminate occupational injuries and illnesses. To qualify, employees at these companies must achieve a specific number of hours worked without experiencing a lost time injury or illness. Combined, these 37 award winners this year accumulated nearly 59 million hours worked without a lost time injury. I want to say thank you to these companies. I believe that the best of the best companies out there want to do the best that they can for their workers, that it is a symbiotic relationship where it's not just if you're a publicly traded company that your shareholders are who you should answer to and who you should value. It's also everybody that helped make that enterprise great. So thank you to these companies for the safety that they make sure is front and center in their business practices. All right, number 3, we're talking about it every day. Vote. I've already voted. My wife Brittany's already voted. We showed that yesterday. And right now, you can vote by absentee ballot, going to govoteky.com. You only have until October 9th, right? So time is running out to request that ballot. If you wait all the way until October 9th to get it, you're probably going to need to drop it in a drop box instead of mail it back in. I encourage you, if you have received your absentee ballot, fill it out when you get it. Make sure you follow all the instructions. You got to sign and seal the inner envelope. You got to sign and seal the outer envelope. And of course, you want to make sure you fill out the ballot. After the 9th, we'll move to in-person early voting, October 13th. There'll be 3 weeks of that going up to Election Day. Easiest election in our history, I believe, to vote in. No excuses. Most of us think whichever road we may believe we need to take, that our country's at a crossroads, this is the chance that you, people of Kentucky and the people of America, get to decide the future course of this country. Make sure your voice is heard, not just on Facebook, but how about the way that our founders intended, that we go in and we ultimately settle conflict and set direction. Vote. It is your duty. I believe it's even an obligation as a citizen of this great Commonwealth and this great country. Also, make sure, if you believe that you have had your voting rights restored, 190,000 Kentuckians have had that restoration since December, that you go online, you can check that, get registered by October 5th. So your time is really running out there. We want as many people registered because it's simply the right thing to do. And finally, Mask Up KY. You know, masking up has been important, but it's more important now than ever. It's more important with an escalation of cases. I fully expect this week will break last week's record as having the most cases in a single week. So masking up is critical to stopping that escalation. It's also critical because we are in many places returning to school, and it's important to keep people safe in that school. But I want to remind you, wearing a mask outside of school is critically important to protect kids and teachers inside it. It lessens the likelihood that someone with COVID goes in. That's something that we should all want to make sure we're being a part of. So today, we start with, this is in a classroom, one of our teachers. And what I love about this is has both people on Google Meet and in the classroom, a hybrid model. But notice everybody wearing that mask. She starts with a short song. She's a community builder, and she can do all of it with it. I think this is Bellevue High School in Bellevue, Kentucky. We want to thank, we want to thank all our teachers. You know, it's hard regularly. It's really hard during a pandemic. All right, next up is Knox County. Now, we see a couple things coming together here. We see the masks important in school, and we also see the registration drive that they are having with their students. So appreciate them doing it all. Great citizen by keeping each other safe. Great citizen by registering to vote. Also notice the gloves. Also good PPE. And finally, this is the Capital City Activity Center here in Frankfort. They've now served 5,849 home-delivered meals to seniors just in September. This is their kitchen crew that are working hard to make it happen. You know, at times like this, where people need us more than ever, it's individuals like this, it is facilities and places like this that step up to get it done. So to these two ladies, but to everybody in the Capital City Activity Center, thank you. Thank you for caring about all of us. Thank you for helping to take care of all of us. Speaking of that, next week we're going to show it, but I got a visit today from two great individuals who helped launch through social media an effort to get people all over the Commonwealth to make masks, to ensure that everybody out there had one. They used some of the leftover materials to make this incredible quilt that we're going to mount and show next week, but really created a community of caring, of helping other people around them. It made my day. I can't wait until next week to show you all what it looks like. You know, it looks like love. Without even seeing it, it looks like love. It looks like what we are supposed to do by our values, by our faith, looking out after one another, having a good time with it, and also getting to know people all over Kentucky. There are so many benefits to doing the right thing. In our heart, in our soul, in our friendships, let's keep trying to do those. All right, quick update on the executive order to provide protections and clarity on the issue of evictions during the coronavirus. When we filed that executive order, we provided $15 million in CARES Act dollars to support the Healthy at Home Eviction Relief Fund. It began accepting applications on September the 8th, so we're just under a month. While Jefferson County has its own federally funded eviction relief initiative, this public assistance program serves eligible individuals in 119 Kentucky counties. In the 3 weeks since we've opened, an estimated $8 million, or 57% of the program's funds, have been committed to provide rent relief for individuals and landlords. 73% of committed funds, or $7.3 million, is currently projected to go to households whose income falls roughly below 50% of the area median income. That means people who need it the most and who would have the hardest time climbing out of that obligation or debt. The estimated $8 million in total committed funds not only includes payment for past due rent, but also reflects estimated payments to assist with 1 to 2 months of future rent to help keep our families stable during the pandemic. Payments go to landlords. They began going out last week, and the volume will continue to increase. I want to remind you, this is only one of a number of programs. Team Kentucky Fund doing one. HUD has one. So many different organizations out there available to help. So please apply for that help. So I want to remind you, if you are a tenant at risk of eviction and you live outside of Jefferson County, visit the website teamkyherf.ky.gov to see if you meet the qualifications. If you're a landlord outside of Jefferson County who's owed back rent, you can get on too and ultimately get this program going. Both the tenant and the landlord must complete and submit separate online applications. To date, the fund has received applications from 3,776 tenants, 2,471 landlords. So make sure you take advantage of this. I'm excited. In a short period of time, we are helping out a lot of individuals. Also, to seek legal assistance, Kentuckians can call the COVID-19 Legal Aid Help Hotline at 833-540-0342, and this is all on kycovid19.ky.gov. All right, moving on. We're moving fast today, Rachel. We've got our daily report on COVID. It continues to be higher than any of us would like, with 910 new cases of COVID-19. 146 of those cases are kids 18 and under. Our positivity rate up from yesterday at 4.11%. Our total number of cases now 69,728. New cases by county: Jefferson 176, Fayette 159, Madison 44, Hardin and Laurel 25, McCracken 22, Davis 21, Christian, Harlan, and Whitley 18, Callaway 17, Kenton and Warren 13, Allen and Boone 11, Jessamine 11, and then Graves, Henderson, and Meade 10. Number of other counties in single digits. They are all available on the website. Next one's hard. 910 cases is hard, but today we're reporting 17 deaths. That makes this, I think, about the fifth, or right around the fifth highest day. That's pretty sad when 17 is just the fifth highest day. It'll bring our total number of deaths to 1,191, meaning by the end of the week, we will probably hit 1,200. I'm looking at the wreath that we hung in here when we reached 1,000 deaths, and to think that we've added 20% in that short time just shows that when we have a lot of cases, sadly a lot of death follows. Remember, these are people's moms and dads, grandmothers and granddads in some instances, sisters and brothers. They're all going to be missed. There are 17 families that are going to be struggling, or have been struggling before today, but let's light our homes up green. Let's ring our bells at 10 a.m., but let's do more than that. Let's wear the masks and follow the rules to make sure that we lose fewer people. It is on us, and it is up to us. So today's report includes an 82-year-old woman from Scott County, a 92-year-old woman from Lewis County, a 76-year-old man from Warren County, a 90-year-old woman from Warren County, a 76-year-old man from Jefferson County, a 93-year-old woman from Scott, an 85-year-old man from Warren, a 95-year-old woman from Scott, a 71-year-old male from Jefferson, an 84-year-old woman from Warren, a 29-year-old woman from Clark. First individual in their 20s that we've lost here in Kentucky. 72-year-old woman from Callaway, 63-year-old woman from Boyd, 84-year-old woman from Jefferson, 67-year-old woman from Clark, 94-year-old woman from Mercer, 88-year-old man from Mercer. And while it's not included in here, and it probably won't for a couple days, got a text from a good friend about an hour and a half ago who just lost his dad to COVID. Anybody want to suggest this isn't real? How to talk to him. These are people we love, and we've lost too many of them. And we're not asking a lot for people to do the right thing, to follow those top 10 rules. If you can put them up, I'm not going to go through them at the moment. But little things. Wear a mask. Socially distant. Keep your groups down. Follow the other guidelines that are out there. You know, these things normally aren't the difference between being a good person or a good citizen, but right now they may be the difference in somebody living and somebody dying. Please, do the right thing. Do it every day. I don't want to read off 17 individuals again. It hurts every time, but it doesn't hurt me nearly as much as hurts my friend who lost his dad, or so many others across the Commonwealth. Long-term care facilities, 32 new residents, 37 new staff, 2 new deaths attributable to it, 1 new facility. Colleges and universities, 78 new students, 0 new faculty or staff, 2 new cases. To give you an idea, while this is it hadn't been deadly to college and university students at the moment, there are 1,589 active cases at colleges and universities just with students. There is less than half of that, 644 residents in long-term care facilities. Shows you the real number of cases that are there. K through 12, remember, this lags the dashboard that Dr. Stack will talk about. 34 new students, 23 new faculty or staff, at least 15 new schools with 1 case associated with them. All right, with that, I think Dr. Stack is going to do a couple of things. First, he's going to talk about the dashboard, and then he's going to talk about Halloween. Let me first say that we have put together the best guidance that we can for Halloween to be safe. But we can't do things exactly like we did them before, and we all ought to know that. Having a big party right now during COVID puts everybody at risk. Let's not ruin Halloween for our kids by it spreading a virus that can harm people they love. Also, we got to think about how much normal interaction there may be at a door. We got a way that people can still enjoy it, and we can limit that down. I said, Halloween isn't about adults, isn't about a big party. It's about those kids who look forward to it all year long. What I'd ask is that you prioritize them and that you be willing to do this a little bit differently this year so that they can have this type of option. So with that, Dr. Stack.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. As I take off this mask, I want to do a shout out to the Christian County Health Department who sent this to me. Our 61 local health departments across the state do exceptional work trying to keep you all safe every day. So thank you again to my colleagues in local public health departments. I'm going to start with just a little story because what the governor just talked about and what he ended on made me think about it. I spoke to an emergency physician friend and colleague last night, and he's worked in Florida and he's worked in New York City during the peaks of their outbreaks. And I think this disease, though clearly it impacts people, and we've announced a lot of additional deaths today, and clearly those families have felt the severe brunt of this disease at its extreme. It's caused a lot of challenges for a lot of folks. But from the healthcare worker standpoint, I still want to point this out. We still have healthcare workers because even though supplies have improved around the country, they're not as good as they need to be, who have to wear the same mask day after day after day, who have difficult time getting the frequency of the chains out of their equipment like they should get across the country. People who, like in New York, when 6 weeks in a row, my friend was telling me, went to work where a place that could hold 60 or 80 patients was holding 120 or more, and where he showed up to work his first shift and there was one refrigerator truck for corpses in front of the hospital, and then there were two later in the week. And the sheer stress of that, and one of my colleagues committed suicide in the New York area after the stress of going through that. Now I know there's people facing stress all over the place because of their loss of businesses and employment and other difficulties. So this is an entire society or a whole community challenge we all have to face together. But it's easy to get jaded, it's easy to get calloused, it's easy to lose sight that this is really serious, even though you walk outside and see a beautiful sunny day and a wonderful fall unfolding. So please, when we tell you this stuff, we don't get up here every single day and spend all this time and ask for this much attention from you and do all these things because it's not really, really important. So for the vast majority of you doing the right thing, thank you. I think most of us want to be a hero in our own life story. At least we want to be a good guy and not a villain. You know, if you stop and help someone, you see a good Samaritan stop and help someone who's had a car accident or an injury, and you ask them, well, why did you do it? A lot of times they just say it was the right thing to do. Why wouldn't I do that? For some strange reason, people require mandates for us to get them to wear masks and do other things. If you want to be a hero in your own life, if you want to save a life today, all you got to do is wear a mask and stay 6 feet away from other people whenever you can. So just please consider that it shouldn't take a mandate. It's what needs to be done. So if I can show my first slide deck, you're not going to be able to read this, but I wanted to do this. I took sequential screenshots down the page on the KY COVID website. It goes left to right. There's a lot of information on this website, folks, and I'm going to address that in a couple ways. First of all, there's a lot of information. If you start at the top, there's all the test locations that have registered on our website. You can map it to location. If you go down in the green boxes, there are the top line metrics, the total number of people tested, the total number of cases, total number of deaths, the positivity rate at present. If you go down further, now you're in the middle column, you see the multicolored incidence rate map. And there's a new description up there today to tell you how we calculate it. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. If you go down further, there's the travel guidance. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute too. Governor, did you cover that? Did you cover the travel guidance? No. Okay, so I'll come back to that in just a second. If you go down further, there's the school box, and I'm going to zoom in on that because the governor asked me to remind you how to get to the school dashboard. There's a lot of reports there. And for most of you, you're not going to care if you live in Western Kentucky, what's going on in Eastern Kentucky, but if you want to know what's going on where you live, go there, and you can look at the schools in your area. And then there's all sorts of other information, including down to contact tracing, how to get unemployment insurance, all sorts of different things are up here on this website. So if you have a question, go to kycovid19.ky.gov and look there. There's a wealth of information. So let me come back to the data. On the incidence rate map, and I'm going to use this general topic to address the positivity rate, the incidence rate. This data is constantly in flux. We are constantly scouring to find the labs who haven't reported. We're constantly grooming the data. When we find new information, we update data sets. Here's the challenge. There's a lot of amateur epidemiologists out there in Kentucky, and they're sitting at home with computers and calculators and trying to recreate everything. So let me just give you one example here. A local health department collects a data set. It could take us 12 hours, 24 hours, 3 days, depends on the circumstances to sometimes get data. We use 7-day rolling averages for some of these metrics because the 7-day average smooths out noise and meaningless variation to give you a statistic that is still current but more usable, more stable over time. It depends when you put data in. If you have one big day and someone puts it in on day 1 and we put it in on day 3, when that data set rolls off, one data set could have a higher number and another one a lower number. That's because the 7-day average depends when you add the data and when it gets incorporated and when it rolls out. So for all of these things, I realize people are looking at the local health department, the state data, and then when we show the president's report from the White House, their data. It's not that it's wrong, it's the moment in time and the data they had at the time. I think you've got to step back and not miss the forest for the trees. If you're red at 25.1 or you're orange at 24.6, you're at the top of the scale. That's the takeaway. You're at the top of the scale. You got to be careful. You have a lot of disease. It's not like it's going from 27 down to 3. That's not the variance. The variance is within a range that makes sense in the big picture. So I get a lot of requests, and we try to honor those, but we can't custom produce data sets for every single person who asks for them. So again, we'll keep trying. We'll respond to as many questions as we can, but please know we take this very seriously, and we're doing our level-headed best to give you actionable data. But when we release state-level guidance, we use state-level data, and so that's what you should refer to. You can't pick and choose your data set. We give you the guidance, you use the data that we use to reach that guidance. That's how that works. So if we go to the next slide. This is a zoom in on the box lower in the screen. At the very bottom, I think it says new there, you can find the K through 12 public dashboard. Next screen, please. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is the self-reported dashboard. So this is where the schools are supposed to go every Monday through Friday when school is in session. So not on holidays, not on weekends. And if you look at this, the current dashboard, we have a total of 1,730 schools who are registered in the dashboard. We think there's around 2,000. So if you're not in the dashboard, please register. So there's an email address you can go to. Let us know you're out there and we'll get you in the dashboard. If you're a parent and you notice your school's not in there, if you want to know, is there disease in that school, so you can make an informed decision for your risk-benefit analysis for sending your child into the school, reach out to your school and ask them if they can courteously, remember, we're get more flies with honey than vinegar. We're here to be nice to people. Ask them nicely, could you please sign up for the dashboard so we can get you in there. And then we have 1,454 schools who have ever reported data here. That's pretty good. We're only on day 4 right now, day 4 of this being rolled out, and we already have 1,454 schools who have reported data. And in the last 24 hours, or at least yesterday, we had 1,348 schools reported data, okay? So thank you. The vast majority of schools are trying to comply and doing the best they can, and that's why you see that big upward spike. We turned it on the 28th, and you see a big surge in the data that came into it. We've got ways to go to get it up where it needs to be, but thank you. Next slide, please. I think the Halloween stuff. Great. So now we're going to pivot here, and we're going to talk about Halloween real quickly. Look, this is an unusual year, obviously, for so many reasons. Let's keep Halloween for the kids, okay? Let's all come together and make sure the kids can have a good, safe experience and have fun. This is not the year to have all the adult Halloween parties, all right? Adult Halloween gatherings are not the same things as the kids, and I think you know what I mean. People get dressed up, they go to parties, they have loud music, they sing, they drink, and they do all those things, all the things that happen that increase the risk of spreading disease. So please, let's leave Halloween for the kids this year. It'll still be there for the adults when we come back next year. So on our website, and is this up there now, Kelly? So we have published our Halloween guidance for the state. And there's a one-pager, and there's also some additional guidance that's a little bit longer, I believe, there. So on that one-pager, we tell you at the top things we recommend that you can do. For trick-or-treat, now there may be some communities who just say, we're not going to do trick-or-treating, and we feel the loss for the children, but I just want you to know we'll support those communities because we understand they're trying to keep everybody safe, and if that's what they decide, we support that. We also understand people want to have Halloween and have some things for the kids to do. We also understand and support that. Please do it safely. And so in a minute, not yet, I'm going to show you some pictures here for some of the do's and the don'ts. But the key things are the same we've been telling you all along. When you're out in public, wear a mask at all times. And no, a plastic Batman mask does not count. So if the kids are close to people, they should wear their mask underneath their Halloween mask. But you should also stay away from each other. You can put candy out at a distance in ways that don't use big bowls that people reach into, but stretch out the candy, and I'll show some pictures. You can put it out on the sidewalk or out on the walkway leading up to your porch, or on the porch or on the driveway with a sign that says, please take one. There are things you can do, and it's on the list. Things you should not do. No trunk or treat with large groups in relatively small areas walking around and reaching in and grabbing stuff out of communal areas. No haunted houses where people are shouting and screaming and people are jumping at you. That is exactly how someone screams and sprays coronavirus in the air and infects someone else, and other people go through there, and the same employee comes back day after day, and before you know it, you've infected a lot of folks. Hay rides and things where you're all sitting packed in the back of a tractor together. That's not a good thing to do. Please avoid these things and avoid large crowds and events. And if you're sick, have fun at home and don't go out in public. If you're sick, 2020 and 2021 in the winter, if you are sick, if you have a fever, a cough, a sore throat, a runny nose, stay home. Stay home until you are better. This is not the year to infect other people because of all the problems that could unfold as a result. So let's show a few pictures that'll give you an example and maybe a little lighthearted. I want to thank our communications team, my chief of staff, and whoever else helped. They went out today and found some children who were willing to work with them, and thanks to the kids, obviously, for being troopers and participating in this. So wear a mask. Those are cute kids with cute masks, and that's cool. So go out and have fun, but wear a mask. Next slide, please. So here, remember, surface contact is not the primary way we spread the virus, but it is a way the virus can be spread. So you should wash or sanitize your hands before you put out the candy. So if you're touching it, your hands are cleaned before you touch the shared bags and put it out. You should use single packaged candy. If you want to make sure no one touches anything, put out raisins and fruit, and no one will probably touch it. But if you want to be healthy, take the raisins and fruit. It's better for your public health. And then when you're done and you get home, you can use a hand wipe and wipe off the outside of the package, but obviously don't wipe off food and then eat the food. Wipe off the package, and then your child can have the packages and go on just like you normally would. Next slide, please. So they are not taking the Pledge of Allegiance here. They are waving at the people inside or on the porch. You can still enjoy these children in their costumes and have them say trick or treat and tell them they look adorable. Just stay at your porch in the door and put the candy out like they have it there at a distance. And you know what? All of us have done this, right? There's not always kids at your house, so there's always a gap. You can go back out and reload the candy after they take it, okay? Next slide, please. And see, they are quite capable of bending over and picking up candy. So they are more flexible than I am at my stage of life. So we go on to the next slide, please. And I just put her in there because I figured she participated in this and she was really cute, and I thought this would be a nice thing for her to get credit for doing this. So thanks for being part of Team Kentucky, whoever she is. And this was an example of how you could put stuff out on a table and people could come up in front of your house and pick up candy. So look, let's have fun for the kids. Let's make it a safe event. And folks, we'll take our usual 3-day hiatus here. The vast majority are trying really hard, and thank you. We've gone through a lot. We've done a lot of good stuff together trying to get through this pandemic that none of us wanted. We are not out of the woods yet, though. And when the governor announces these incredibly high numbers of cases, that are going up week over week. Let me just caution you, if this comes back to bite us, it can bite really hard and it can bite really quick. And so let's not do that. If we work together, we can find a way to continue to get through this until we get vaccines and we get to a better place next year. Thank you very much, and thank you, Governor.
So Rachel and I have missed Virginia this week, and I know we look forward to her being back, so I thought we would make sure she's a little bit of a part of our last day this week. And this one's pretty neat. The hands move too. All right, we'll open it up for questions, but again, I hope that everybody will go online. We'll look at that Halloween guidance. It is not too much to ask in a global health pandemic to put a table out on your porch and stand on the other side of the glass on your door, or put it down in front of your porch and you can be up on your porch to watch it. Little things. If you love those kids coming around for Halloween, let's make sure that we make it safe for them. And make sure you trick or treat with your family unit. I know I've enjoyed in the past, and everyone does. It's 6 or 7, 8 or 9 parents walk and the kids are running all together. We need to try to make sure that we don't do it like that this year. This can still be enjoyable. Our kids will still remember it and will love it. Let's make sure it's safe for them. All right. One more travel advisory. So this is our normal advisory, but Public Health has also added Florida, despite the fact that its rate is below 15%, as we are now going into fall break in many schools, and Florida has lifted just about every restriction that's out there. It is a subjective decision that right now going to the beach with 100% capacity in a restaurant is just as dangerous as going to some of the other areas that may have a higher positivity rate but have taken steps to lower the risk. Also, Florida right now, without any real mask requirements that they are pushing. You might ask, why Florida and not some other places? This is a very popular destination right now during fall breaks, and we can't keep our schools open if people go to the beach and bring it back and it spreads throughout the school. All right, we'll start over here on the left today. We started on the right, well, on my left yesterday. So, Nick.
Governor, counties that are red, we are noticing that many of them are rural counties. Meanwhile, places like Fayette County, they were moved to orange. Why do you think that we are seeing so many issues in rural counties like Estill County, for example?
Question is, many of the red counties, and I don't know if we have today's incident map, many of the counties that are red right now are rural counties. And that's fairly new. What we've seen is, if we would have been doing the incident map, Harlan, for instance, what was it, about a month ago, would have been red when they had their breakout and then back again. Fayette and Jefferson County would have been red most of the time, and then it may move up and down. What both we're seeing and the White House has noted in their reports is our spread is both rural and urban. That COVID-19 isn't just in major cities or concentrated it anymore. It is everywhere, and it is just as likely to hit a rural community as an urban community. I think what we're seeing right now is it's hitting a number of those areas, but we will see it in our urban communities too. And I think the takeaway is it can happen anywhere, and just because you have fewer people in your county doesn't mean that you're going to be luckier. I mean, Greene County is one example of that. A lower population certainly than many around it, but ended up with a significant community spread. School did the right thing and paused earlier than we put out our incident map. But So I don't think it's necessarily because rural counties are more lax in the mask wearing. I think right now, I think we see almost across the board people being less urgent about wearing them. And I think it has more to do with maybe it's our natural rhythms going through the year, and we hit different points where we feel the disruption even more. And we feel like we've been at this for too long. I think that we've all become a little too casual when we need, in fact, to be more urgent. But you know, this can happen anywhere. We get a little more lax. You have a big outbreak, you put the mask back on. If we want to prevent the outbreak, which we got to do with schools now, we just got to put it on and keep it on. Stu?
The City of Lexington and the University of Kentucky announced this afternoon a partnership to have police patrolling social gatherings, parties for the football game this Saturday. Are college-age kids hearing the message yet?
The question is today, and they told me about this on Wednesday, UK and the City of Lexington announced that they're going to be doing joint patrols because of the number of college tailgates in people's back or front yards that were held last weekend. What this allows is for the university police to enforce their code of conduct, which says you can't be doing that. It says it in slightly different words, but that we know these spread the virus, and we are seeing significant increases in cases amongst our college-age students. And that's really concerning because we saw that in Florida and Texas and Arizona before their last big increase, because you see it in kids in their 20s, and then their parents or just a slightly older generation gets it, and it very quickly moves to the group that can be harmed the most. Do I think that our college-age students are getting it? I think they're trying. I think it's tough to judge somebody who's 19 and at college maybe for the first time in their lives by the same standards as we judge others. But it's a pandemic. We need them to hear. We need them to respond. Tom?
With the Halloween guidance, it sounds like the churches and civic groups often do those trunk or treats and harvest festivals in the parking lot. I take it that is something you recommend against this year.
So the question is on the Halloween guidance. There's civic group and churches do certain types of events, trunk or treat, oftentimes inside. We need people to do it differently. So the groups can still do things that bring kids together, but think about a parade, a costume parade. Think about something where if you want to have treats out, again, they're individually wrapped, they're spread out, and it doesn't bring the kids together. Think about if you're going to do a movie night at church with an appropriate movie for the kids, I hope, but having the kids stay in their car, either like a drive-in, which they can do, or significantly spread out. We're not asking that those groups don't do Halloween, just differently, just safely. And I will tell you that our guidance provides a lot more opportunity than the CDC guidance that says don't do trick-or-treating at all. Listen, I know people are going to do it, and so I want to try to give them the best advice on how to do it in the safest possible way. Mike?
Will you be cracking down on haunted houses that are open to the public and operate mostly on the weekends when they attract a big crowd?
So we are just getting the first information on haunted houses. We shouldn't be running a haunted house that runs a ton of people through. Interior spaces where you can't be socially distanced and people are yelling and jumping at each other. But we should have known you can't do that in the middle of COVID. Again, we hit certain times where we say, but we really love this regular tradition, and I get that, I do too. But we're in the middle of a worldwide health pandemic, and we've at least got to be smart about it. Joe?
You mentioned that a 29-year-old woman from Clark County died. I know you can't reveal too much specific personal information, but can you say anything about her situation and whether she had, a lot of people have other underlying conditions. Can you say anything more about
The 29-year-old that passed away today did have significant underlying health conditions that impacted her day-to-day life, but she was not in any type of care setting. And to our knowledge was doing the best she could given what she'd normally face before COVID. And that's what the coronavirus does. Some people latch on to that and say, well, you had asthma and therefore that's it and not the coronavirus. Now this hits people that maybe need a little extra help or sometimes a lot of extra help but are otherwise stable, and it kills them. And we can't continue to let that happen. And it seems in other instances when something like that's come along, we didn't try to pretend it's not true, because it's very true.
I have a couple of questions that are related about the Halloween guidelines. How confident are you that enough people will actually follow these guidelines in order for them to be effective? And how confident are you that if people follow these guidelines, that it still won't lead to an increase in cases?
So the first part of the question is, how confident am I that people will follow them? I certainly hope that now that we have put out a safe way to do trick-or-treating, that every community, every county, every city will grab a hold of it and will say, let's do it this way. That they will look at the type of public events that can spread versus the ones that are a little bit safer and say, let's change just for this year our tradition from a trunk-or-treat to a Halloween parade. I believe that surely if we provide a safe option, people won't say, well, let's do it the way we normally do, which isn't safe, as opposed to just a slightly different way. So I'm confident that our leadership throughout the state is going to take a look at this. It's a way that it can happen, and it's a way that it can happen safer. And I think our city and our county leaders and our community leaders will grab a hold of it and push it as hard as they can. Now, is it perfectly safe to do with the CDC saying don't trick or treat at all? No. I mean, almost nothing's perfectly safe now. But we do think it could significantly reduce the risk that we face. Now, the CDC thinks that normal way of trick or treating is not safe. And they're the foremost expert that's out there. We ought to listen to that. And that ought to be just one more reason that we do this just a little differently. And really, what are we asking? That instead of holding a bowl and leaning over kids as they take something out, that we spread the candy out on a table in front of our house. That's pretty small in the midst of what we're in to keep people safe. All right, concerned citizen, not exactly who they should contact regarding schools that are not self-reporting at the end of each day. First, we ask that you call the school. If the school is not answering, you can call either us or the local health department. This looks like Trigg County School System, according to this individual, not updating their information to that school system. If you could make sure that every school has gotten on and is reporting every day. And then I got a written one for you after this one. Steve.
Would a return to more restrictions greatly lower the cases, or are we in a situation with kids in school, college back in session, fall sports, all that happening, that's going to bring up the cases anyway?
The question is on further restrictions or, and this part is correct, with kids back in school, with fall sports, with some of the other colleges going on, we're going to see more cases, more contacts out there, more cases. But what we've got to do is try to reduce the number of new cases as much as we can. Right now, I don't think it has to do with where our level of guidance is. I think it has to do with how well people are following that guidance. I think a whole lot of people are doing it, but we've seen, just like we did in the summer, some ebbs and flows. What I'm asking is that people, maybe we're not asleep, but let's wake up a little bit. Let's put the masks on. Let's wash our hands. Let's remember that 17 new deaths today. And you look at September and you do it either way, either by the time that we report it, it's going to be the deadliest month we've had by a significant degree. Or if you do the actual date somebody passed away, which you really can't calculate September until about mid-October because there'll be cases that are still going through. That'll be those September dates. It'll still be there. I mean, if we're having the deadliest month we've had and something that's killed 1,200 people, we now know that there's small steps that if we take, we can protect one another, and that's really what we need from people. Dr. Stack, what do public health leaders say is driving the higher COVID case counts across the state right now? Is it return to school, Derby, Labor Day weekend fallout, too many family members getting infected by other relatives in the home?
Thank you, Governor. So what's driving the increase? Most of the things that were on that list. If you think back to March and April, remember what that was like. And anyone who was alive after September 11th and remembers that, remember how quiet it was for 2 days. There were no airplanes in the sky. Well, the same thing happened when we did Healthy at Home. We shut things down. And if you remember, you went out on the roads and there weren't many cars, and you could commute back and forth without any traffic jams if you had to do a drive still like I did. We shut things down. People didn't get in contact with each other, so the disease didn't spread. I realize we're not back to normal yet, but everything is open in some form or fashion now. It may not be full capacity, but people are out and about, and you see the traffic on the roads and the people out doing stuff, and so we are intermingling with each other, and we're spreading infection to each other. And so some level of increase is probably goes along with that. The problem is we've had a lot of increase, and the reason we're having a lot of increase is because there are still enough people out there who feel that they should still go to densely packed gatherings, that they don't need to wear a mask, that this is not as important as it is, and they're not taking the steps they need. So all those activities, whatever it is, and I'm not going to point the finger at too many individual activities, all those individual activities where we get closer together are things that cause the spread of disease. And I will leave this message because I want to punctuate this for the colleges and universities. I suspect, just like with any community, most people understand that this is important and are trying to do the right thing. There's always that small crowd who's got to choose to do the wrong thing. Please don't do that. And if you're one of the people who can behave better and you can make a better choice, don't go hang out with those kids who are partying at college, because those are the ones who are going to get your schools all shut down. So if you looked at what happened around the United States and at UNC and some of these other universities, you want to get a school shut down, you want to get a business shut down, just ignore the rules. And when the disease takes over, because it will, then things are going to get shut down again, and they'll get shut down by other people. If people start getting scared that when they go there that they're going to have deaths, people will stop showing up. We'd rather not get there. So please follow the guidance, wear a mask, socially distance, wash your hands, and then these other activities can still continue even though they have to be in a little bit modified way.
And just a reminder that it isn't wear a mask or socially distance. It is wear a mask and socially distance. And if you're inside, especially at a place of work, outside of your house, you really want to wear this just about all the time. And if you are outside, and a lot of people when they're outside think that they don't need to do any of it, if you're going to get within 6 feet of somebody, you need to put on that mask. Tom?
Court case last month. Court hands down an adverse ruling on rendition day possibly this month. How much will that handcuff you, and what can you do if they rule against it?
The question is if the Supreme Court sides with the Attorney General when they render a decision and eliminate all emergency powers of the governor and, for that matter, a lot of localities. What will that do, and how will we react? Well, first, it will end workers' compensation for our frontline workers who are quarantined because of COVID. It will gut our schools because they won't get paid for children who are not get paid. They won't receive dollars, their funding, for children that are working remotely or aren't in school most of the day. And then it'll eliminate every tool that every other state is using to fight this virus and that the White House encourages us to use. It'd be devastating, absolutely devastating. And the result is more loss of life, more people who are sick, harder time keeping schools open. Likely our economy would have less activity, not because of rules or restrictions, but because COVID will move through it at such a higher rate. I mean, there's a reason that businesses and retail and others supported the mask mandate. Not please wear a mask, but you got to wear a mask. It's because it is helping our economy. It's hard to imagine that there is even this challenge that is out there. Separately, until if they side with the Attorney General's argument, it wipes out my ability to respond to tornadoes or flooding or, God help us, a terrorist attack. It removes all the emergency powers pretty much entirely. And I mean, call that what it is. It's just crazy.
The state of Ohio announced today that Hamilton County, along with 2 neighboring counties, had gone into the red zone because they're seeing a significant increase in cases. I'm checking to see if the state health department or local health departments in northern Kentucky are concerned at all about any spread down from Ohio.
Question is on, I guess, the Ohio counties that border Kentucky, Hamilton with Cincinnati, and the others moving to red. Are our Northern Kentucky health departments and others concerned? They have been and remain concerned. That has been, whether it's been red or not, that has been one of the hottest spots in Ohio. Have been the counties that share borders with us. Certainly we have people that commute a whole lot that live in Kentucky and commute to Cincinnati. More and more that may commute to Kentucky because we're working to bring all those jobs over on our side of the river. But it is of great concern because COVID doesn't care about state lines or about that river. It can spread anywhere where people interact. We've seen the Northern Kentucky Health Department do a good job. We've got St. Elizabeth is doing a good job testing up there, but almost every day in our reports, one, two, or all three of those counties, mainly two, are above 10 just about every day. And that's not just population, it's also the interaction with Ohio. So my hope is that they will take steps similar to the ones that we've taken to help stop that spread.
With the anticipated release of the grand jury testimony tomorrow in the Breonna Taylor case, at least anticipated, have you had any talks or any plans to use the National Guard or state police at all in Louisville if there's any need for it?
No. Question is, with the grand jury transcript, I think it's going to be a recording. The grand jury recording released in a redacted form in the Breonna Taylor matter tomorrow. Have I had any conversations about state police or National Guard? No. And I don't think that there is a need. I think what we're going to see is what happens when you actually provide people information. I think they're going to look at it. I think they're going to process it. And then I think they're going to have a lot of questions. I mean, we have seen not just a desire to see the truth, but we've now seen contradictory statements between the announcement of the grand jury decision and interviews that have been done in the last couple days about what was presented or what was recommended or what people knew or what was heard. And so I fully expect that while it will be released, there'll be a lot of questions that need to be answered and there'll need to be explanation, and that's what I expect will be people's next step. All right. Is from Jeremy Chisenhall, Lexington Herald Leader. I know the governor and state have acknowledged that data tracking for COVID-19 isn't perfect, but a lag in county-to-state data now has Fayette County in the red zone in terms of incident rates, which comes with automatic recommendations. But more up-to-date numbers from Lexington Fayette County Health Department show Fayette County currently below the red zone. With that discrepancy in mind, would the state recommend schools assess their own situations on a case-by-case basis when following the state guidance? The reason that the state information lags is that the Fayette County Health Department is one of the slower in the state about actually updating that information. And the answer to not getting the data in fast enough isn't don't follow the state recommendations with the state data. It's fix the problem. Fayette County Health Department also the only local health department left in the state that's not using the contact tracing software that helps us have an overall state approach. They stand to lose, I think, hundreds of thousands of dollars of CARES Act funding with that. And listen, it's by saying they would be in the orange right now instead of the red, what it means is that 3 days ago or 4 days ago, they were in the orange when they should have been in the red. The tool is as good as the data people put into it, and a case-by-case decision, we've seen what it does. We've seen people say, oh, but that's just people on the left side of town or on the right side of town. We've developed a good tool. We've developed multiple streams of data. I believe that it provides the best recommendations that we can. There will always be people that argue with anything we put together. It used to be the statewide recommendations, and then we created the incident map that was asked for, and then it was let's try to argue around that. It's like Dr. Stack said, if you're arguing between, if you're in the red or the highest part of the orange, you're in a dangerous situation. And you need to take the steps to lessen the spread, not to argue with the approach. All right, once again, we miss Virginia, but we appreciate everything that Rachel is, of course, doing. Let's make sure throughout the end of this week and through the weekend that we do better. For everybody out there doing it right, thank you, keep it up. We need you. You got to be our rock. You got to be consistent, and you got to be an example for everybody else out there. But as we rocket towards the highest week that I believe we will have had yet, and that be happening back to back, we've got to change. We got to have more people joining us, and we got to make sure that in the major events that come up, we do it right. When you turn on your TV and you're watching a football game, it looks totally different in the stands, doesn't it? So the way we got to do things has to look totally different too. So we can get through this, and we can bring as many people along with us, and we can turn this escalation around. We can turn this increase in deaths around. It is all in our power, even though the existence of the virus is out of our power. And it's not going to be forever. The vaccine is coming. We got to give it time to make sure it is safe, and then to deploy it to those who need it the most. Like, we're going to make it. We know that. Unlike so many challenges that we have faced in history, we're going to make it. But how we go about these next months will determine how many folks live, how many folks die, how much more long-term damage there is. Let's win this battle. Let's look back on this time as us doing it better than anybody else. Let's not have any regrets about what if we tried just a little bit harder. Listen, I love being the governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, even during these times, because today I had people come in and show me acts of kindness being done all across this Commonwealth. People spending all day long creating masks for other people. Let's all grab a little bit of their spirit. Let's spread it around. Let's be kind and compassionate to one another. Let's live for one another. Let's show people what type of Kentuckians we are. Thank you.